saya ucapkan kepada semua yang hadir pada program Pharmaceutical Career Talk pada hari ini. Pertama sekali, rasa syukur saya panjatkan kehadrat Ilahi kerana dengan izinnya dapatlah kita bersama-sama berkumpul bagi menjayakan Career Talk anjuran Pharmaceutical Technology Student Society PTSS bagi tahun 2021. Selamat datang saya ucapkan kepada semua peserta dan terutamanya kepada speaker undangan kita pada hari ini. Yang berbahagia, Profesor Yuen Kahir selaku speaker undangan pada hari ini, yang berusaha CHM Dr. Mazlin binti Muhyiddin selaku penasihat Kelab PTSS, yang berusaha Nurul Izzati binti Muhammad Fauzi selaku Presiden Kelab PTSS, yang berusaha Alia Natasha binti Muhammad Afandi selaku Program Director bagi Pharmaceutical Career Talk bagi tahun 2021. Tidak lupa juga kepada barisan ahli jawatan kuasa Pharmaceutical Career Talk yang telah menjadi tulang belakang bagi menjayakan program ini dan juga para peserta yang sudi meluangkan masa bagi mengikuti sesi perkongsian pada hari ini. Saya bagi pihak ahli jawatan kuasa tertinggi Kelab PTSS sekali lagi mengucapkan selamat datang dan bagi memberkati majlis pada hari ini, saya menjemput saudara Muhammad Daniel bin Roslan bagi mengetuai bacaan doa. Dipersilakan.
Al-Fatihah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Ya Allah ya Rahman ya Rahim. Hanya padamu sahaja kami panjangkan kesyukuran atas segala rahmat dan berkat-Mu. Bersempena dengan majlis pada hari ini, kami memohon inayah dan taufik-Mu. Kurniakanlah kesejahteraan dan kebahagiaan kepada kami. Bukakanlah hati-hati kami. Lapangkanlah dada-dada kami supaya kami dapat mengisi ilmu dan pengetahuan yang berguna untuk agama, bangsa dan negara. Kami memohon kepadamu agar engkau berkatilah majlis ini dengan limpahan rahmat-Mu. Semoga segala usaha kami dalam menjayakan majlis ini mendapat keredaan dan hidayah-Mu. Sesungguhnya pada hari ini kami berkumpul kerana-Mu, ya Allah. Kami berkumpul untuk menimba ilmu, bertukar pendapat, menyumbang buah fikiran, menghubungkan silaturahim dan memberi sokongan ke arah meningkatkan lagi prestasi kami. Kami memohon kekuatan dari hadrat-Mu, ya Allah, supaya kami yang hadir pada hari ini dapat melaksanakan segala kebajikan. Dan kami mohon perlindungan dengan Engkau daripada melakukan keburukan. Ya Allah, kurniakanlah kepada kami kekayaan ilmu pengetahuan dan hiasilah diri kami dengan sifat lemah lembut. Serta muliakanlah kami dengan ketakwaan dan indahkanlah diri kami dengan kesihatan. Allahumma ja'al jam'ana jam'an marhuma وتفرقنا من بعده تفرقا معصوما ولا تجعل لهما فينا ولا معنا ولا شقيا ولا محروما ربنا عليك توكلنا وإليك أنبنا وإليك المصير اللهم اجعل من أهل الخير واجعلنا من أهل البركة واجعلنا من أهل المغفرة اللهم اجعلنا من أهل الجنة واجعلنا من أهل الفردوس يا أرحم الراحمين. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين آمين آمين يا رب العالمين.
Amin, amin ya rabbal alamin. Terima kasih diucapkan kepada saudara Daniel Roslan atas pimpinan bacaan doa itu tadi. Sebelum kita memulakan sesi bersama speaker jemputan, ingin saya ingatkan bahawa anda diminta untuk menggunakan gambar yang sesuai pada profil picture anda dan anda hendaklah memperkenalkan diri dahulu sebelum bertanyakan sebarang soalan. Peserta tidak dibenarkan untuk bertanyakan sebarang soalan sepanjang sesi perkongsian berlangsung kerana sesi Q&A akan diadakan selepas berakhirnya sesi perkongsian daripada speaker. Peserta diminta untuk tidak membuka mic dan kamera sebelum sesi Q&A untuk mengelakkan sebarang gangguan dan anda diminta untuk menumpukan perhatian dan bertanya segala persoalan yang ingin anda ajukan apabila sesi Q&A dibuka. Selesai sudah dengan tata cara sepanjang program, kini saya ingin menjemput tetamu jemputan pada hari ini iaitu Dr. Lee Wing Hin selaku Ketua Program Bachelor of Science in Pharmaceutical Technology bagi memberikan sedikit ucapan beliau. Dengan segala hormatnya dipersilakan.
Okay. Thank you, MC. Very good morning to our guest speakers, Emeritus Professor Yang Kahai, colleagues, students, welcome to our Pharmaceutical Career Talks. And it is my honors to introduce our speaker this morning. So as we all know, Professor Yuan is our PACs for our programs, PharmTech programs. So Professor Yuan have obtained his PhD from University of London. And from there, he started his teaching and learning in pharmaceutical school. And he has served for more than 40 years in USMs. So for everybody informations, Professor Jens has been successfully supervised more than 60 postgraduate students. And he has published more than 170 publications or so. So without a doubt, I can say that Professor Jens has made a significant contributions to the societies, which including industries and also to our societies. For everybody informations, Professor Jens have worked as a consultant for Hovid since 1992. And he has made a significant contributions to the Hovid company also. So everybody knows that the BE center, there are not many BE center that has been established in Malaysia. And one of the BE standard that in BE center in Malaysia has been established by our Professor Jens also. So beside that also, Prof. Jens has been retired from Hovid on December 2020. And at the same time also, Professor Jens have obtained his emeritus professorships in 2019. And he was listed at top 2% scientist by Stanford University in 2020. So beside that also, Professor Jens also have made a significant contributions in terms of producing news, teachings or stuff to our society. For everybody informations, most of the top people in Lembaga pharmacies and also in MPRA is Professor Yuan's ex-students. And we can see that Professor Jens is like, how do I say, is a contribute a lot into our society in developing what they call the company-wise and also the news talents the staff to our society here. So, and I would like to say that these mornings we have made the right decisions to invite Professor Jens to give a talk on our career talk, because most of our students, either we are just enrolled or we are after finish our PharmTech programs. Most of us, we don't know what we're supposed to do at the end of the days. Either we need to go into the industries, or either we need to go to further our study here. If let's say we want to go into the industries, what does the industry expect from us? And how are we going to prepare ourselves to face the new challenge in the industry? On the other hand, if let's say we want to further our study, what we supposed to have? What are the attitude and what are the criteria we supposed to have here? So I would say all these kind of questions that in our mind, okay, that play in our mind for so long, I think today is a good time for us to ask these questions with Professor Jens. And I believe that based on Professor Jens' experience, he can explain to everyone what we're supposed to do if let's say we choose one of the route here. So without much to do, I would like to invite Professor Jens to share his talk about the career, about the pharmaceutical career. So thank you very much, Prof. Yuan. The floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Dr. Lee, for the kind introduction. Can you all hear me?
Yes, Prof.
Okay. So my presentation today will focus mainly on the pharmaceutical manufacturing industry. But however, please note that as PharmTech students, your career is not just limited to the pharmaceutical industry, but also in many other areas. For example, like what Dr. Lee mentioned, you can go and do your postgraduate studies and perhaps later take up the role as a lecturer. You can also go into a career as sales and marketing for pharmaceutical excipients, for example, chemical industry, and also maybe also in the analytical instrument and equipment industry. You know that there are companies selling all these equipments to the pharmaceutical industry, to the universities. So as PharmTech students, you are adequately equipped to be the sales and marketing for equipments, chemicals, etc. as well, not just limited to the pharmaceutical manufacturing industry. Now, my presentation, I'll start off with a slight brief overview of the pharmaceutical manufacturing industry. And as I go along, you can see where you can fit into the various departments or divisions in the pharmaceutical industry. Okay, so I shall start off now with my presentation. Okay, all of you can see, yeah?
Yes, Prof.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I see that there are quite a number of participants, altogether 100 over, right? And
Yes.
they are mainly PharmTech students.
Yes, most of them are from
Oh.
students.
Okay, very good. Well, you've got so many PharmTech students. Yeah. Okay, if you look at the pharmaceutical industry, in particular the manufacturing industry, it is one of the most tightly regulated. You know, compared to other industries, it is very tightly regulated. And because we are making medicines, they are for the sick people and for human consumption. So unlike the other electronics industry, where, you know, even if you make a mistake, it's all right. But for the pharmaceutical manufacturing industry, you cannot make a mistake. Okay. And often it is very regulated by very stringent GMP requirements, and you have extensive QA and QC controls. And often all these controls are very narrow and stringent in limits. Okay. What about Malaysian scenario? Now, in Malaysia, most, if not all, are generic drug manufacturers. And the major players include Hovid, I think Apo, you should know, Zipasol in Encotra Pharma in Malacca, Pharmaniaga CCM in KL, and YSP in KL, etc. And the products that they produce are mainly generic medicines, nutraceuticals, OTC, herbal, and also fortified food products. Now, exception are Biopharma Biotech and Biocon. These two companies, they produce what we call biologics. For example, insulin by Biocon and erythropoietin by Biopharma Biotech. Now, these biologics are different. They are large molecules, and the GMP requirements also are very different. If you look at the pharma industry, this is actually a niche industry. Not many people can go into this industry because you need the expertise and the skill sets to go into this industry. And I think as PharmTech students, you are well prepared to go into this industry because you need skill and well-trained workers. And the pharmaceutical industry is also a very important industry for the health of the nation because you can then make medicines available and, more importantly, affordable to our rakyat. Now, if you compare generics and innovator products, like I mentioned earlier, Malaysia, we produce mainly generics. If you compare to innovator products, that means the original, the multinational products, generics are so subjected to similar testings and regulatory control. Okay, so the way you prepare them, the way you manufacture them, and all the regulations controlling the manufacture and testing of all these generic products, they are similar to the multinational innovator products. But then you find that the generics are very much cheaper than the innovator. For example, here, you look at clopidogrel. Clopidogrel is a drug used by the neurologists and also the cardiologists. When patients go for stenting, for example, they are put on clopidogrel. The original product is about 650 per tablet. If you cost compared to the generics, it's less than 2 ringgit. So it's very much cheaper, you know, about 70% savings. Now, this is another example, Lipitor. Lipitor, the original product is about 350 per tablet, whereas generic is about 90 cents. So this is what I call affordable medicine. Now, imagine you go to the countryside, you meet Pakcik Makcik, and you tell them to take clopidogrel, for example, and the Makcik will ask you, or Pakcik will ask you, how much is per tablet? And you say 650. I don't think they will take it. 650, they can bring food to the table for the family, for lunch, for example. You know, so with medicine so expensive, we have to go for alternatives like the generics, right? And this is what I say, that why should we deny our people of treatment of medicine just because they're so expensive? The question at the back of your mind will be, since generics are so cheap, right? They're much cheaper than the innovator. So are they equally good and effective? Okay. Now, to answer the question, let's look at drug formulation. In the early years, when I first started with Hovid in 1992, things were very simple. You know, all you need to do is to formulate your tablet and just do lab tests and fulfilling certain pharmacopoeia requirements like BP or USP, and then you can get registered and you can start to sell them. But today, it is very different. You must show proof of bioequivalence. Okay? Now, what is bioequivalence? I'm sure you have gone through this before. Now, bioequivalence means you must show that your generic has similar rate and extent or the amount of drug absorbed compared to the innovator product. So to get similar rate, that means how fast it's absorbed and how much it's absorbed compared to the original product. That's where formulation scientists will come in, and that's where you as a PharmTech student, next time when you're working, you must know how to formulate a generic product that is matching with the innovator product. And these bioequivalence studies are conducted in healthy human volunteers. And this is the best proof that your generic is as good as the innovator. And having done the bioequivalence studies and show that you pass the bioequivalence criteria, then you can register your product and then you can sell in the market. But unfortunately, passing bioequivalence is not that easy. Okay? It is a big challenge to the generic manufacturers. If you talk to some of the local companies, failure rate can be as high as 50% with some of the companies. In other words, when you send your product for the bioequivalence study, you send 2, 1 will fail. And each time when you fail, the company may lose as high as 500,000. Because today to do a bioequivalence studies, the cost is over 200,000 to do a study. Imagine you lose 200,000 to conduct a study. But not only that, because to do the bioequivalence study, you have to produce a manufacturing batch. And if you fail, that batch has to be thrown away, and that batch can cost 200,000-300,000 if the drug is an expensive drug. Okay. And not only that, not only you lose about 500,000, you have nothing to sell. Your product cannot get registered, and you have nothing to sell, and they will delay you. Therefore, we need really skillful formulation scientists, and that's where I think PharmTech students, later you can take up the role as a good formulation scientist. And you try to get it right the first time. Not that, I know some companies, they fail bioequivalence studies, the same product, they fail it 2 times, 3 times. How much losses will that to the company? And at the same time, the company has nothing to sell. So you see now where you can come in as a skillful formulation scientist. What you have learned in the university in PharmTech would be very useful for you to develop all these products. Now, how is the study conducted? Like I mentioned earlier, it's in healthy human volunteers. It's a 2-way crossover design. In other words, for example, you take 24 human volunteers, you divide them into 2 groups. In the first week, group 1 will take the original product. Group 2 will take your generic product. Then after giving it a tablet, you take blood samples from them. Okay, take serial blood samples over 24 hours or 36 hours. Normally, you take about 15 to 16 blood samples. And then after 1 week, then you cross over. Those that have taken the generic will now take the original product. Those who took the original product will now, this time in the second week, take the generic product. Again, you take the blood samples and then you analyze the drug concentration. Now, as PharmTech students, you also learn about the analytical instrument, how to analyze drugs, not only from the tablet, but also from the blood. Okay. Now, this is also another area you need skills. I remember those days in the 80s when I first started doing this so-called bioavailability studies in humans. We were measuring drug concentration in the milligram per ml. Because those days the drugs were not so potent, the dose were higher, and you can measure them in milligram per ml. Then come the 90s, drugs are getting more and more potent. We have to measure them at nanogram per ml. That means 1,000 times difference. And today, some of them we are also measuring at what we call picogram per ml. That's another 1,000 times lower. So if from milligram to picogram, you find that it's almost 1,000,000 times differences. So you need very sophisticated equipments, and you also need very skillful people to do the drug analysis in the blood samples. Then from the blood concentration, then you can calculate the parameters like the area under the curve, the maximum concentration, and the time to reach maximum concentration. And from there, you calculate what we call the 90% confidence interval. You must show that the 90% confidence interval is between 0.8 to 1.25. What does this mean? It means that your generic has at least 80% of the amount of drug absorbed and not more than 125% when compared to the original product. So if you can show that your generic falls within 0.8 to 1.25, then you pass the bioequivalence testing. Now this is an example here. This is a generic drug compared to an original called Nizoral. Okay, the drug is actually ketoconazole. One is generic, one is the original product, and the black dot will for the generic. The white dots will be for the original product, Nizoral. You can see there's a slight difference in the blood concentration, especially the peak concentration and the area under the curve. So when we calculate the 90% confidence interval, for the AUC, it was 0.74. That means 74% to 106%. And for the Cmax, is 78% to 106%. And remember, the criteria is 80% to 120%. Therefore, this product failed to achieve bioequivalence, and you cannot register the generic product and sell it in the market. So which means you wasted all your time developing the product, and you waste all the money in conducting the trial, and you waste the huge production batch that you have, and has to be thrown away, and you've got nothing to sell. Okay, so now you see how important it is in the formulation. And therefore, as PharmTech students, I think you are very well equipped to play this role, to be a good formulation scientist and develop products that are bioequivalent, and they can fulfill this bioequivalent testing, and your boss will be very, very, very happy. Now, there's another problem. People don't realize the issue of supra-bioavailability. What this means, remember the bioequivalence interval is 80% to 125%. Now, there's a catch there. You cannot be less good, neither can you be better. Okay, if your formulation is better than the innovator, the original product, you also fail, because generics can be better, but you fail bioequivalence if you are better. Okay, so you see the problem now? So all the time, most people think, especially the health professionals, they think that generics are not as good because they're cheaper. But what they don't realize is generics can be better, but then they fail bioequivalence. Okay, so I always tell my students, never say generics are cheaper. They are more affordable. So we should say that generics are more affordable and they are as good, but they are affordable. We don't like to use the word cheaper, because the word, when you say cheaper, people always think it's cheaper is no good. But it's more affordable. I think that's a term we should use. Generics are more affordable, but they are as good. Now, this is the example here. Many years ago, when I was working with Hovid, we developed this glimepiride, which is our generic product. Okay, and when we compare with the glimepiride, which is the original, you can see our product here. Okay, this is the blood level that we obtained from doing the study in human volunteers. And this is the innovator, the blue line. You can see that the innovator product was so badly formulated that when you compare the amount of drug absorbed from the innovator, it was only about 12% compared to our product. So we fail bioequivalence. So in other words, for the innovator product, if you have 100 milligram in the tablet, only 12 milligram is absorbed. The rest are all gone to waste. Okay, so you see, as a formulator, if you formulate a product like this, you are a lousy formulator. Okay, and with this product, we can easily make a very good formulation, and you can see how well the drug is absorbed and what kind of blood levels we can achieve. So if the drug is not absorbed well, you are not going to get the therapeutic benefits from the drug. Now, there's another problem coming. Problem of drug combinations. For example, glimepiride and pioglitazone in a single tablet. You see, multinational companies, they are all playing all kinds of tricks to make generic companies difficult. Imagine if you have one drug in one tablet, it's already so difficult to pass BE. Some companies having 50% failure rate. Now, if you have two drugs in one single tablet, it's going to be much more difficult. If one pass, one fail, you still fail. You must get both drugs in the tablet passing the BE before the product can be registered. Okay? So it's much more difficult to pass with two drugs. And again here, that's where a good formulator will be able to do the job. And there are more and more combination products introduced into the market now. And this is the trick that is played by all these multinational companies to make life difficult so that you cannot pass your BE, you cannot sell those same generic products in the market. You have valsartan and HCTZ, amlodipine and valsartan, telmisartan and HCTZ, and the list goes on. So that's where we really need, the industry, our generic industry, we really need good formulation scientists. We need very skillful formulators. Now, when I was with Hovid, we have developed a few combination products that have passed BE, And when I was Hovid, I was heading the whole R&D team. I had the final say whether the product can go for bioequivalence studies or not. And I can tell you, it is a very stressful decision to make, because if I make a decision and the product fail, it's going to cost the company a lot of money. Okay. But you see, because Hovid is the only company that does its own bioequivalent testing. In fact, when I was working with Hovid, I set up the first bioequivalent testing center in Malaysia. We are the only company doing both the formulation and also the BE study. Now, other companies, they don't do their own BE. They do the formulation and then they send the product to a third party to do the BE studies for them. Okay, and those companies doing the BE testing, they don't do the formulation. So we are quite lucky in the sense we do formulation and then the BE itself. So over the years, we know what are the important things to look for from the laboratory tests, dissolution, disintegration, and also the behavior of the tablets during disintegration and dissolution, and also the analytical part in the BE side. We can then match the two together, and therefore our passing rate for Hovid is more than 90%. So in other words, when we go and do a BE, we have a higher chance of passing the BE. Okay? And therefore, I hope, these PharmTech students eventually, with your skill that you've learned at the university, okay, with the knowledge that you've learned, you go to the industry and help our local generic companies to formulate good products that can pass BE easily. Okay. Now, another problem is the lack of BE centers in Malaysia. USM Attest is the way I used to head the BE center. Another company called Infokinetics, and another one is Questra. These two are private companies doing BE studies for the industry. There used to be one BE center in University Malaya as well, but the center in University Malaya has closed down because when they were audited by the regulatory bodies, MPRA, they failed to comply to the requirements, and therefore they were not given the license to do the BE studies. So most companies like Zipa, Pharmaniaga, Kotra, they use BE centers from India and Indonesia. Okay? Because there are not enough of BE centers in Malaysia. I used to have a lot of requests to do BE studies, but I just cannot cope, you see, because we are doing mostly our own products. And the setup requires huge capital expenditure. You need to be accredited. That means you need to be audited by the MPRA, and you fulfill all the GCP and GLP requirements. Then only you are given the license. Then only you are recognized. Then only the reports from you are recognized by the regular. Spend a lot of money building up the center. Even the maintenance itself, to maintain the lab is very costly. And moreover, you need skilled personnel to cater for the GCP. The GCP is good clinical practice, and GLP is good laboratory practice requirements. So the MPRA or those countries you export to, the authorities will come and audit your lab, audit your GCP, audit your GLP. Only when you pass the GCP and GLP requirements, then only your BE report will be recognized by these authorities. So it's actually a lot of things to fulfill, a lot of things to cater for, and therefore it's very expensive to run a BE center. And that's why the BE studies are so expensive. And we need personnel with good analytical skills to analyze the plasma drug samples. Now, again, as PharmTech students, you have learned all the analytical instruments, and that's where you can pick up the skills here again and be part of the BE team. Because for measuring the blood concentration of these drugs, which are extremely low, nanogram, picogram, we need very sophisticated equipments. Now, this picture here is LC-MS-MS, a liquid chromatography, mass spectroscopy, mass spectroscopy. This machine here that we have in Hovid, in our BE center, right? This one is already it's about 10 years old. At the time we bought it for 1.4 million ringgit, 1.4 million ringgit. Imagine that you can buy, today's market, you can buy 2 S-Class Mercedes-Benz. And this one here is the latest one that we had, which was bought about more than a year ago. Quite recently we bought this. And this is 1.8 million. But this machine here, 1.8 million, is much more sensitive, approximately 8 to 10 times more sensitive than this machine here. Okay? So imagine you have to buy a machine that is 1.8 million to do the study. Okay? And you need very skillful people to operate this machine as well. Now, next I'll come to the pharmaceutical manufacturing. Okay? If you look at pharmaceutical manufacturing, first you need a GMP plant. So you need to design and build a plant according to regulatory requirements. And you need special expertise in GMP. And in this plant itself, you have different departments or divisions. Okay? And all these departments or divisions will need personnel with special expertise and skill sets. Now they include QA, QC, manufacturing, then you have the manufacturing and production. That's daily production and daily manufacturing. You also have a department called supply chain, which is usually in charge of purchasing, warehousing, and logistics. Previously, some companies have separate departments. They have a purchasing department, warehousing department, and the logistic department, etc. But now some companies have merged all this into what we call supply chain. And then you have a regulatory department, you have an R&D, you have a legal department, you have an engineering department, you have a sales and marketing. And some companies have a sales and marketing department as well. Although they manufacture, also they do the sales and marketing. And of course, you have others like human resource, finance, IT, etc. And I think it's not related to us. But if you look at from quality assurance down to sales and marketing, okay, I'll go through them one by one, and you can see that as PharmTech students, you are equipped to take your career in each of these departments here. Okay. Now I'll start off with design and the construction of a cGMP plant. This is Hovid, located in Ipoh. Okay, this is the manufacturing part. This is the warehouse, which I'll explain later. Now, if you look at Malaysia, we actually lack knowledgeable personnel in pharmaceutical plant design, which has to be done according to very stringent regulatory requirements. This is a good area to go in. Okay, if you can master all the skills with your background in pharmaceutical technology, and if you can learn up, you have the basic to learn up all this plant design according to GMP requirements, everything, you will be in big demand. And also bear in mind that different manufacturing plants making different dosage forms, such as tablets, injections, creams or ointments, they have different requirements. That means they are different plants. You have a plant for tablet or solid dosage form. Okay, the requirements is different. If you make a plant for making injections, then the GMP requirements will be slightly different again. I mean, the basic will be the same, but there are special additional requirements. If you have a plant to make creams and ointments, then the GMP requirements will be different again. Okay, from that of a tablet or injection. But the basic requirements will be the same, only the special requirements will be different. So I think as PharmTech students, this is one area. Perhaps some of you can go and do a higher degree, go and do your postgraduate, master's or PhD, and specialize in some of these GMP things. Then I think you'll be in big demand. Okay, not only in Malaysia. Okay, so it's a good area to specialize. Usually, most of the local manufacturers, when they want to build a plant, they get consultants, and sometimes these consultants come from overseas, and you have to pay them a lot of money to help you to design this. Then once you have a plant, then it's in operation. Then that's where the QA departments come in very importantly. The plant must be operated under strict guidelines and must be approved by the regulatory bodies. In Malaysia, it's MPRA. Now, the plant will be audited or inspected not only by MPRA, our local authority, but also authorities from other countries if you export your products to that country. Okay. And cGMP, why I have the C there in front of the GMP? C stands for current. In other words, the GMP requirements keep on changing year after year, or keep on getting more and more regulations coming year after year. So you have to keep up with these regulatory requirements. Okay. So this cGMP and quality system is actually under the role and responsibility of the quality assurance or QA department. This is a very important department in pharmaceutical manufacturing. Okay, it is a very important department, and the QA manager reports directly to the upper management. Is separated from the production because there's a conflict of interest. Because the QA will make sure that the production are carried out according to cGMP requirements. Okay. So if the production people do not follow the guidelines and everything, then the QA can fault them, okay, and refuse to accept whatever they have produced. And that's why the QA is separated from the production and reporting to the higher management. Now, the department can have 50 to 100 personnel under this department alone, locally. Yeah, imagine how many people under the QA department. Okay, and seriously, in Malaysia, we lack people that are good, okay, in QA. So as PharmTech students, this is a very good area to specialize in and to go into the builder of career. Okay. Now imagine if you have a GMP plant, you need a license to operate. So your license will be revoked or be cancelled or suspended if your GMP is not maintained. Okay, because the plant is audited or inspected regularly. Now, the authorities will notify you, hey, I'm coming for an inspection. Then you can get everything ready, right? But sometimes they can give a surprise check. That means they don't tell you, they just come tomorrow or whatever to catch you by surprise, to make sure that that you are doing it daily. You know, your GMP, you fulfill it daily. Not when I tell you I'm coming next week, then you prepare everything and it looks nice at next week. So sometimes they give you a surprise check. Now, during the audit, it covers almost all aspects of your company, from the plant maintenance to the equipment, to the environment, to the competency and training records of personnel as well. For example, your people, even your operators, you know, are they giving the training? Are they fulfilling the GMP requirements? Are they carrying out the guidelines? And then are they given proper trainings or not? All this have to be recorded. And the findings, if you make a mistake, for example, you're not following certain GMP requirements, the findings can be what we call minor, can be called major, or can be critical. If they are minor and major, then you still get your license. You have to rectify them, you have to make the corrections. Critical is more serious. If you have too many criticals, then your license will be suspended. You have to stop manufacturing. And it's a heavy price to pay. Okay, it may cost the company 500,000 to 1 million a day. You know, if you stop manufacturing. Imagine companies like Hovid, for example, monthly they're producing about 12 to 14 million. Okay, 12 to 14 million amount of goods to be sold, to be exported and sold locally. Imagine you cannot stop, you have to stop manufacturing. You cannot manufacture that. So every day you'll be losing 500,000 to 1 million. You have to pay your workers who are not doing anything. You have nothing to sell, and you lose a lot of money. So for now, overseas regulatory bodies also they will come to audit you as well. Okay, for example, Hovid was exporting, is still exporting to countries like in the Middle East, in Saudi Arabia, in Libya, in Southeast Asia like Philippines, Burma, Cambodia, Vietnam, etc. So the regulatory bodies from this company will come and audit you and make sure that you fulfill the GMP requirements. So when they audit you and they give you a pass, then you can get your products registered in that company, in that country, and you can sell in that country. But if let's say Vietnam, they come to audit you and they find that you fail your GMP, then your products cannot be registered in Vietnam and you cannot sell in Vietnam. So you know now why QA department is so important. Okay, it is a very important department in pharmaceutical manufacturing. Now, if you have picked up the skills in QA, with your skills, you need not necessarily be working in the pharmaceutical manufacturing industry. Other industries also have QA requirements, like food industry, for example, maybe not so stringent. Okay, even in electronics manufacturing company, they also have QA. You can also work there. Okay, not necessarily with a QA experience, you limit yourself to the pharmaceutical manufacturing industry. If you are familiar with the QA requirements or the GMP requirements of pharmaceutical manufacturing, you are more than qualified to be a QA in many other industries where the regulatory requirements are not so stringent like the pharmaceutical industry. Okay, so you don't limit yourself. You are good in QA, you don't limit yourself in just pharmaceutical manufacturing. The next department is actually QC. Now QC can be under QA. Okay, It involves testing of raw materials, those things that you buy in to make your drugs. You have to test them, and also test them after you make the products, the final tablet, before you release them to the market. So the QC will make sure that what is come out for the production fulfill all the requirements. Then you give them a pass, then they can be then sent to the market to be sold. Okay. So again, this is a relatively big department because you're doing all the testing. That means you must be familiar with all the equipments. You need skilled personnel to perform all the tests according to guidelines. You must be able to handle all the different equipments, like HPLC, different tester, okay, the real meter, whatever test that is required. So again here, I think PharmTech students will be very ideal for this role here in doing all these testings as well, because you have learned that in your university. You see here, there's a long list of QC testing. The raw materials, for example, there's identification testing for related substances, impurities, residual solvents, moisture for purity, heavy metals, microbial load, microbial limit, particle size, etc., etc. And the finished goods, once you make them into a tablet, these are all the tests you need to do again. Okay. Now, next I'll come to the manufacturing. Okay, you have a QC, QA. You can see that as PharmTech students, you can really fit into this QA and QC role. Now we come to the manufacturing and production. This is where you can also fit in again. In production, personnel are also involved in day-to-day manufacturing. Okay. Now, usually in the plant there, we have all these workers, production workers. They don't need to have a university degree. Sometimes some of them have maybe from 5 or STPM or SPM, you know. So they're involved in the day-to-day running of the equipment, everything. But you need, now before I come to that, different products such as solid dosage forms, injectables, glycols, they require different plants and personnel with different skill sets. Okay, that's why the operators, we train them up, you know. But you need skilled personnel at the executive and managerial level, familiar with GMP practices and also the machinery to oversee the daily production. And that's where PharmTech students can come in here. Now, not only you see the day-to-day running, okay, how to operate the tablet machine to make sure that the tablets are made well and everything. You also learn to, you also have to troubleshoot problems when this problem arises. For example, machine breakdown is very common sometimes when you're running the machine and suddenly the machine stops working. And then your product come out, have quality issues, you know? So how you as PharmTech students, and you know why my tablet comes out like that, you know? And that's why with your knowledge in pharmaceutical technology, you learn to go and troubleshoot and overcome the problem and solve the problems. Okay, for example, you have capping. You know, you make a batch of 800,000 or 1 million tablets, and then suddenly, when you start to punch the tablets and the tablets come out, of course we have to examine it as the process is going on, and you see some of the tablets are capping, or even chipping. You know, like chipping here like that. You know, then you know something is not right. So with your skills in pharmaceutical technology, then you can learn, go and see what happened and how to overcome all these issues. Right? Now, next department is supply chain. Supply chain actually is involved in the purchasing of raw materials with quality that fulfills certain regulatory requirements. You know, because the raw materials coming in, you must get a source that is reliable and of quality. Okay, so you need to know something about the pharmaceutical field. And after you have purchased them, you must know how to store them properly. Okay, not only the raw materials, also the finished goods. After you make the tablets, how should you store them? And all this storage, maintenance of warehouse, all this must be according to certain guidelines and regulatory requirements. For example, temperature control, humidity, pest control, etc. Now, you're also in charge of the inventory control. Inventory control means you must know how much already in your warehouse. Okay, if you have too much stored in the warehouse and not so, something is not right. So you must also be able to track what are those fast and slow moving items, what are the expiry dates, etc. Otherwise, you store them in the warehouse and then nothing is done and they expired, and then you got to throw them away. Then your boss will be after your neck. So in the supply chain, those in charge of inventory control, you must know your stock, which are the fast moving, slow moving. Then you can then notify the authority, the relevant department and say, or the sales department and say, hey, we have so much stock. They're going to, if you don't sell them, they're going to expire soon. And you're going to tell the production, hey, don't make so much, don't make any more. You know, all this information must be shared. Okay. So again, personnel with pharmaceutical background are needed. Okay. Of course, we have employed people with no pharmaceutical background. It would be better if you have people with pharmaceutical background. At least they understand why they need to do all this. You know, why it is so important. Not so much just from the standpoint of the storage of the raw materials or the finished goods, so that they don't get spoiled or whatever, but also to fulfill all the regulatory requirements. That is where you can come in. Now, this is the warehouse at Hovid. This. Okay, this is actually state-of-the-art warehouse. It is fully automated with real-time monitoring of temperature, humidity controls, etc. Okay. Now inside here, nobody can go in. Okay. There is a lot of robotic systems inside. You just put your goods in there, scan, tag, and then the robot will take it in and store it somewhere. You don't know where. Then when you need it, the amount, everything on the computer, then you just key in what you want, everything. Then the robot will go in and take it out for you. Okay, so everything is fully automated. All the temperature control, humidity control, everything fully automated and real time. It means you can monitor what's the temperature at this corner of the building, at that corner of the building, you know, in the storage warehouse, so that everything, when the regulatory bodies come and audit you, you have everything to show them that I have maintained it well. There's no breakthrough in the temperature, humidity, etc. Okay, and this costs a lot of money to build. Now, next I'll come to regulatory affairs. Okay, all products need to be registered with the regulatory bodies before you get a license to sell them, both locally and overseas. Okay, and you have to register your product one by one. You cannot say, these are my 10 products, register. No, each product must be registered individually, either locally or in the overseas market. And different countries may have slightly different requirements in the registration. Okay? And registration can be costly. It's not cheap. Each product can cost, some countries cost few thousand to register one product, one by one. One product, few thousand, one product, few thousand, one product, few thousand. It's time consuming, 6 months to a year. Okay, if you're, the quicker you register, the quicker you get the license, the quicker you can sell them and generate the revenue. You delay, your boss will be after you. So to register, you must submit a proper dossier each time. It means this document containing all the information about the drug product, how it's manufactured and everything that's required in this document or dossier. Okay. Missing info or wrong info will cause a delay. That means it's not complete, or you give the wrong information, then the regulatory body will send it back to you. and you have the ding dong up and down, then you delay further. Okay, and therefore, to prepare this dossier, you need personnel with required knowledge to prepare a good and complete dossier for registration. Again, people with pharmaceutical knowledge are required to prepare a good dossier. Okay, and you know, even multinational companies, they even have regulatory affairs, because when these multinational companies, they bring the products to sell in Malaysia, for example, they have to register their product in Malaysia as well. And locally, they normally will employ a regulatory affairs manager or whatever to register those products. Okay, so the career path is not necessarily with local companies, but also with multinational companies. In fact, one of my classmates, she was the regulatory director for one of the multinational companies and pay a high salary as well. So again, as PharmTech students, this is one area you can go in, and this is one area where you have the expertise, okay, with the necessary knowledge to prepare the dossier and all the requirements for submitting for registration. Now I will come to the R&D department. This is our R&D building, okay, in Penang, near the second bridge on the Penang Island. Okay, when I first started with Hovid, it's just a small R&D department, and then I was given the overall charge of the R&D department. And over the years, that was in 1992. I remember I've just had a few people working under me from Hovid, and later as the department or the division grew bigger and bigger, and we produced more and more different type of formulations into the market, everything. So the boss very happy, and it grew into a subsidiary company called ATES Research Serja Berhad, and we have our own R&D building. Okay.
Dia bertanya, oh intan je best sejahtera tak kan abang ada ni kan. Oh,
Okay, can you hear me? Hello?
yes, bro.
Yeah. So how come just now there was some children playing around? Hey, it's not working anymore. Something is wrong. Okay. Okay, now, if you look at the R&D department, actually what do we do? This is again a very important department to pharmaceutical manufacturing company. So what do? We actually formulate all types of dosage forms, from hand sanitizers, you know, the hand sanitizer, the quick clean, you know, now is in big demand because of the COVID pandemic. And this hand sanitizer is quite unique that we have, which we formulated in USM, the time we have labs in USM. We formulated that 20 years ago. And last year, when the pandemic started, this hand sanitizer helped the company to make a fortune. Singapore alone ordered 6 million bottles. 6 million bottles worth 200 million. Can you imagine? 200 million sales just to Singapore alone, not counting those sold locally and everything. To fulfill the 6 million bottles, we don't have the capacity. So the company has to run to Turkey to get people to help us to manufacture. We give them the formula, they help us to manufacture, and then ship it back to Singapore. Okay, and all that. So we formulate all kinds of things. Hand sanitizers to creams, to ointments, to capsules, to tablets, emulsions, suspension, you name it. We do everything. that the company wants to sell. Okay. We also do development of analytical methods and all relevant tests. Okay. I mentioned earlier, we also conduct BE studies. We also conduct cell and animal studies, including clinical trials. We also assist other departments, example, production, regulatory affairs, and even QA on product complaints. You see the QA at the time. The QA, because QA is a department that's in charge of the quality system, everything. And if there are product complaints, for example, somebody complained, say, hey, your tablet, after taking, have these side effects and everything, whether I take the original, no side effects. So you have to explain, especially when this complaint goes to the regulatory bodies, MPRA. But unfortunately, that time our QA people, they are not of the pharmaceutical background. Even now, I think. Yeah. And then that's where they will come to the R&D department, how to answer and all that. And we have to help them to answer. I remember many times I have to draft the answers for them. So imagine if you are from the pharmaceutical background, then you can solve some of these issues yourself. You can answer some of these questions. We also assist in patent search, which I'm going to come to that later on, and also filing of patents. Okay? And where you as PharmTech student, you think you can go into this area? Yes. We also develop special delivery systems, but not for drugs, because remember for drugs, for generic drugs, because of the BE issue, you cannot be better. But for nutraceutical, yes, you can develop special delivery systems or special formulations, especially for those vitamins with poor and erratic absorption or bioavailability. For example, Hovid Superbio, which has tocotrienols, okay, a form of vitamin E. And like all fat-soluble vitamins, tocotrienols are poorly absorbed and very erratic absorption or bioavailability. So that's why we formulate the patented system. We patent the system. Okay, we patent the formulation and we call it Hovid Superbio. Okay, and this was developed by me. You see, this is the normal formulation. Okay, very poor absorption. And this is the formulation, the special formulation. You can see we increased the absorption by almost 3 times so that people get their money's worth. Otherwise, you take it, you get very little absorbed, or sometimes very poor or no absorption, then you're wasting your money. Okay? So this is the first version. This is the Superbio system. We call it Biooptimum absorption. Okay? Now there's another one, coenzyme Q10 again. Coenzyme Q10 is also another drug that is very poorly absorbable, poorly bioavailable. Now this is the red line is the original formulation, original product. Okay. Then the blue line is a product from US called Q-Gel, and they use a patented delivery system for a formulation. It's patented. You can see the blue line here. The absorption is better than the original product. Okay. Now in Hovid, we developed another system, this pink line here, which is even better than the one from US and better than the one from original. So this is again where formulation science come in, where as a good formulation scientist, you can then help to develop systems that help to improve the absorption of some of these poorly bioavailable drugs. And then so that your product, when you market it, you have an advantage. You have something to tell the consumers, hey, look, my product is a better formulation, better absorption, so you get your money's worth. Now, if you look at the generic formulator, job of a formulation scientist in a generic company is more challenging or more difficult compared to one working for an innovator drug company. So for a multinational company, if you're a formulator there, you don't have to meet bioequivalence. right? So you formulate your tablet, you just follow some basic formulation principles as well. And you just then sell in the market because you are the original product. Then the generic formulator will have a problem to formulate a product that can match yours. Okay, and it must not be less good, neither can it be better. So I have to match what the innovator has done. So don't you think that it is more difficult, more challenging than just a formulator in a multinational company, right? And that's where formulation skills will come in. Now, even after addressing all these issues, overcoming patents is another big stumbling block in a generic generic manufacturing company. Not many people realize that there's another hurdle that we have to address. Okay. Now, very briefly, with this hurdle, what we do when you are the steps in developing a generic product. When the boss asks us, say, hey, I think, or sometimes we also, as the R&D department, we also recommend to the sales team, recommend to the company, what drug to develop, what product to develop. Because we look at the market and we say, hey, so for example, celecoxib is selling so well and you don't have a generic, so we say, hey, this is a good product to develop. There's no local generic, So we do a feasibility study. It means, can we make this product or not? From the standpoint of equipments, from the standpoint of also this patent. How come? Yeah, from this patent. We have to do a patent search, okay? Then we study the attributes and profiles of the innovator product. That means we buy the original product, we study the attributes and the profiles. For example, the disintegration, the dissolution, the tablet size, tablet weight, the amount of drug inside, etc., etc. So we study everything about the innovator product. Then we start to formulate a matching product. Then we have to select, all excipients have to be carefully selected. You cannot simply use any excipients that are not approved by the regulatory bodies. Okay, and even approved, there's also a limit amount that you can use and everything. Then we compare with the developed product with the innovator product until the dissolution, disintegration, in terms of other attributes, everything are matching. Okay, all these comparisons are based on in vitro lab tests, and finally we go for the bioequivalence test. Okay. Now the legal department and patent. Why I say that? Because this here, remember R&D, we are involved in the patent search. Now, what is a patent? Patent, okay, is filed to protect an invention with commercial value to prevent it from being exploited by others. Okay, so say you have invented something, right? And there's nothing in the market yet. Nobody has done it before. So you file a patent to protect yourself so that when you start to sell the products, people cannot copy you and then start to sell as well. And this patent, when you file it, you have to file it in different countries. You file in Malaysia first, then after you get the filing, then in the same time you can file it in another country. And you think that, oh, I'm going to sell in Philippines. Philippines will have a big market for my invention. Then you also file the patent in Philippines, and in Hong Kong, or in US, if I'm going to sell in US, or Australia, or Philippines, or Singapore, then you can file the patents in all these different countries. Of course, filing each time in different countries, you need money. But if your invention is so good, you can think you can make back the money, you have to file. And the patent period, the protection period given is about 15 to 20 years. So within this 15 to 20 years, people cannot use your invention or make the same thing and sell. If they do, you can sue them. Okay? and you get back a lot of money. But very unfortunately, most lawyers and even judges, they have no scientific background. Okay, so there's a big demand for personnel with pharmaceutical background and also familiar with patent laws. Okay, now you look at the patent protection, types of patent in the pharmaceutical field. You can file a patent, or drug companies have filed a patent for a new chemical entity. That means a new molecule which they have discovered to have certain therapeutic benefits. No one has done it, so they file a patent for this molecule. Okay, this is what we normally call the primary patent, and it is difficult to challenge. That means once you file it, nobody can use the same molecule in those countries that you have filed. If they do, you can sue them. Okay. Then there's also patents on subsequent improvement, what we call secondary patents. Now, what are these improvements? Improvements can be polymorphic forms. For example, when you discover the drug, and this drug can exhibit, you already filed a patent for its use, right? Nobody can use that. Then you can also file, you find that this molecule have different polymorphic forms. For example, it can be in the triclinic, orthorhombic crystals. Then you find that the triclinic crystals is better in terms of properties, in terms of manufacturing, in terms of solubility, in terms of absorption. Then you file a patent for it as well. So people, next time when your chemical, when your molecule patent has expired, you still got this patent on the crystal form. So people cannot use this crystal form. Okay, or you can, some people won't file it for dosage forms, dose regimens, or as a salt or ester or other derivatives. For example, docetaxel. Okay, you can have the anhydrous docetaxel. Then one company filed a patent for docetaxel trihydrate. That means when they crystallize out the docetaxel, they use a special solvent, and the crystals that they get is actually a trihydrate, and they file a patent for that because that trihydrate form is more stable. Okay, so other companies cannot use the trihydrate dosage form. Okay, or you can even file a method of making that. So you find that these are all secondary patents, but they are not very strong patents. People can challenge you. So many of these secondary patents, especially those related to formulation, have been challenged by big generic pharma, by generic companies. Now, they often lack what we call inventiveness, novelty, and hence they can be invalidated. That means you can go to court and their patent tak laku lagi, so you can use it. Okay. But for various reasons, in Malaysia, we rarely dare to challenge these big multinational companies. Now, patent challenge we face. Most secondary patents filed after 8. There's one more slide I missed out. Okay. But in Malaysia, what are the patent challenges that we face? These are mostly secondary patents filed after expiry of the molecule patent, right? They patent the dosing schedule, they patent on the formulation, which is ridiculous. Some of this formulation, you cannot file something that is already in the public domain. That means it is in the open, people know it. But somehow some of these multinational companies, they still get it patented. Patent on the process of making drug or dosage form, patent on the crystal form, patent on the salt form, patent on the combination products, patent on indication, etc. So these are some of the challenges we face as a generic company. Now, criteria for granting a patent. When you want to file a patent, you want to file for a patent, what are the criteria? What are the important attributes of your invention before you can get a patent? One, it must be new, novel, or no what we call prior art. That means there's nothing, it's something new, no one has done it before. Okay. Secondly, it must have what we call inventiveness. That means it is not obvious to someone skilled in the art. Okay. Not something so obvious that everybody will know. And the third, of course, it must be useful and have utility. Okay. Now, based on the above, many of these secondary patents appear to be lacking the two important criteria of novelty or inventiveness or both. Okay, I will give you an example later on, you understand what I mean. And as a farm tech background, if you can pick up some of this, maybe you can do an additional, maybe a diploma in some of these laws and everything, then you'll be so useful in this area as well. In Hovid, I mean, this is we have a legal department, and this legal department is headed by a lawyer with no scientific background. So we always have a lot of problems because we have to help the lawyer in many of these issues because they don't understand the science, and we have got to explain it. Okay, but over the years when we work with them, we also pick up some of these laws, so we also be able to answer some of these questions better than they do. I remember when we filed a patent last time, when it came back, I have to rewrite the claims and everything and to redraft the patent, you know, and try to imitate their style of writing, you know, how lawyers are writing, you know, because the lawyer itself, herself, cannot do the drafting because they don't understand the science. So some of these secondary patents can be challenged in court, but it's a costly affair. That's why local generic companies, they are too small. Usually they don't want to take the chance to go and challenge them. Now, this patent on dosage form, this example I'm going to give you, this drug, alendronate, okay, for osteoporosis. And the patent claim is that unit dosage forms comprising 8.7.5 milligram to 140 milligram, according to a continuous schedule, having a periodicity of about once every 3 days to once every 16 days. You see how they draft, the lawyers, the kind of English they use. If you're not familiar, you don't even understand what they're talking about. What it means here, very simple in layman terms, it's just that the dosage regimen from 8.75 milligram to 140 milligram to be given, okay, once every 3 days or once every 16 days or in between. So as a generic company, when they have this patent, there's no way I can overcome them. And why? Because generic has to follow the dose regimen of the innovator. So although they have this claim here, they give it a dose instead of every 3 days to 16 days, they give it once a week. Okay, once a week is a very useful regimen because you don't forget. If every 3 days you will forget, or every 16 days you will forget. So they give it once a week. So we have to follow once a week because you are generic. You're supposed to substitute. You have to follow the same regimen. Okay. So there's no way you can overcome the claim. And we have to follow the regimen. So the only way is to invalidate the patent. It means to say that this patent doesn't hold water. It is not new. There's no inventiveness. Now, this patent already invalidated in many countries. For example, this MMC has 2 patents on this alendronate. 1982 patent on its use for osteoporosis really expired. That's not important. But this is a patent that giving a lot of people a problem. The 1997 patent on this high dose once weekly regime. Okay, once weekly, every 7 days. Now, this patent both of these patents were struck down by the British High Court in 2003. Year 2003. In US, patent also not invalidated in 2005. Netherlands and France also found this Merck patent not valid in 2008. In Malaysia, we launched a product in 2006 where we follow the regimen, okay, once a week. Then this multinational company sent us a letter on the patent infringement. They asked a lawyer, the legal department wrote a letter to us. So we had to stop selling the product. And not only that, subsequently, they took us to the High Court of Malaysia, the Patents Court, and the High Courts of Malaysia. Now, bear in mind, this company, this multinational company, has lost in many countries already to other big generic companies. But they still take us to court, a local company. They really want to bully a local company because the local companies are smaller. And why they do that? They want not only to threaten us, they want to also threaten all the other local generic companies so that they not sell this product using the same regimen which they have patented. So my R&D manager and I, we spent a lot of time preparing the case with our appointed legal team or the lawyers, the legal firm. And because these lawyers, they don't understand the science, and we have to go in and draft all the case with them, go through with them one by one what this means and everything. You know? And then my R&D manager and I spent almost a week in High Court. You know, but fortunately, we managed to invalidate the patent, which we won. And the company has to compensate us for the legal costs, for the loss of sales, etc. But you know, we spent over $1 million, the whole case. What was compensated was only about 500 to 600,000. So we still lost a lot of money. Although we won the case, we still lost a lot of money. So you see now why this multinational, they want to bully you. Yeah. And this is not end of the story. After losing the case, the multinational company took the case because they lost. So they took the case to the Court of Appeal, a higher court, and was rejected. They lost again. They were not satisfied. Then the multinational appealed to an even higher court, the federal court. And this time they won. The federal court threw the case back to the high court. So this means to say the generic company or we have to go to court again. But I've already retired from Hovid, so I won't be going, luckily. Now, the next department I'm going to talk about is the engineering department. Well, I'm running out of time. I think I took more time than the required. It's okay, right, Dr. Lee? Hello.
Yes, Prof. It's okay. No problem, Prof.
No problem, huh?
Yeah.
It's finishing already. The plant has many. The plant has many major equipment and machines. Okay, for example, tableting, capsuling, blistering, cartoning, mixers, fluid bed dryers, analytical instruments, etc. We also have to deal with the air, water, analytical system, and the control and everything. You know, you have to control the air, the water. You cannot simply use tap water or whatever. And all these require proper maintenance and repair during breakdowns. Any breakdowns will disrupt operation and cause the company to lose a lot of money. So the personnel in this engineering department include engineers and also those with pharmacy and pharmtech backgrounds will be useful. So again, this is an area that you can develop your career. Now, sales and marketing. Some companies, some manufacturing companies, they also have the sales and marketing department. This is also a very important department because they bring in money for the company. And personnel ideally should have pharmaceutical sciences background, okay? Especially in marketing because the tight regulatory control in promotion and advertisement. Hovid, we have employed marketing managers before with no pharmacy or pharmaceutical science background, and usually they have a lot of problems because they don't understand that in the pharmaceutical field, you have a lot of regulatory control in the promotion and advertisement of pharmaceutical products. Okay? And in this sales and marketing, you can hold many positions. For example, sales rep. You know, you want to go and sell a pharmaceutical product, you must have background knowledge of the product, else how are you going to sell it, right? So you can be just a sales rep, you can be a product manager, sales manager, marketing manager, and even top posts like GM and director. Okay, so this is another career path that you can take, and usually this is quite rewarding. If you go up to GM and director, you'll be very, very, very well paid. So in summary, making generic drug products today is getting more and more difficult and more challenging. And we need more pharmacists and pharmaceutical technologists. Okay. Now, bear in mind, a healthy pharmaceutical industry is important for the health of the nation, and it is our obligation to make medicines more affordable. Otherwise, affordable medicines for our riot will just remain a dream. Now, have you ever been this tired? Seriously, you know, in R&D, we have to play so many different roles, you know. It's really very tiring. And after 28 years, that's how I look like. Okay. So thank you very much for your attention. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I'm more than happy to answer.
Tambahlah sudah perkongsian daripada Profesor Yuan yang cukup memberikan sedikit semangat buat kita semua. Dengan itu, majlis merakamkan jutaan terima kasih kepada Profesor Yuan atas perkongsian beliau sebentar tadi. Sekarang kita akan mulakan pula sesi Q&A untuk memberi ruang kepada para peserta untuk bertanyakan soalan. Peserta diminta untuk membuka mic dan mengajukan sebarang soalan ataupun anda boleh tuliskan di ruangan chat box untuk saya bacakan.
Thank you very much, Prof, for the interesting talk. I'm not sure about others, what they think about Prof Yuan's talk. For me, it is very informative talk. And for your information also, when last times that I'm in first degrees, that we do not have this kind of talk at all. Basically, that's the moments you grad from your uni, then that's all. Then nobody going to tell you what you're supposed to do at the end of the day, what you're supposed to do, where you're supposed to go. And for this talk, there's Prof Yuan also remind me one thing about the especially the sales. Prof, I think a lot of people look down at the positions as a sales marketing, because nobody like to do the sales because they think that's it is something that's a low grade positions. And I think I need to share with you all. I got two friends that working in pharmaceutical related sales marketing also. And in fact, now their salary is close to 5 digits per month. So yes. I hope that everybody needs to change your mind that sales marketing is not a low class job. And Prof, I got questions to you. Do you think that our Malaysians, okay, got the abilities to develop our own what they call factories? I mean the pharmaceutical factories, in order to reduce the dependencies from the overseas supply, because we are heavily rely on India or some other overseas country to supply our drugs. So what do you think, Prof?
You mean develop the raw materials?
Yeah, from raw materials until to the finished material, Prof. What do you think?
Yes, we can. In fact, before I go to that, I'm happy that you brought up about the issue of sales and marketing. In fact, the sales and marketing is where the money is. You know, you can go in as a product manager, you're quite well paid. Okay, then you go, initially you are in charge of a product, and then you manage the product, you're a product manager. And usually they are quite well paid. Then you move on to a sales manager. That means you're in charge of the whole sales team. Your salary is even better, and you can go up further. You know, and this in the sales and marketing, or you can be a marketing manager. In marketing manager, you don't do the sales, but you plan the strategy how to market your products. Okay, it's a different marketing and sales will be different department. Some companies you take both roles, but some companies they have separate roles, marketing and sales. And this is a good area to go in with your pharmaceutical background because there's a lot of money to earn. Okay, now back to whether we can go all the way to from raw materials, synthesize of raw materials. Currently, in Malaysia, we are heavily dependent on importing. For example, if I were to make even aspirin, you know, the active pharmaceutical ingredient, aspirin, the powder, to make the tablet, I import them. Okay. As far as I know, we have one company doing all this synthesis of these drug APIs. What's the name? Suddenly, it's actually Indian-based company. Rembek, it's not Rembexi. It's the other one. Is it's based in Sungai Petani. I visited the person before. The one is Dr. Naik. He's an Indian national, and he's heading the plant in synthesizing some of these active drugs. We can do it. Only thing is whether the local company is brave enough to invest the money. When I was Hovid, just before I left, 4 years before I left, I started a project. I was heading a project with a team to synthesize these peptide drugs. You know, peptides is a new class of drug. It's between the small molecule drugs. So drugs can we can divide them into 3 different categories roughly. Those small molecules. Small molecules will be like those aspirin, Panadol, clopidogrel, you know, simvastatin. All those are small molecule drugs. Then you have those biologics. Those are huge molecules. All those monoclonal antibodies, MAPs, all those erythropoietin, those are called biologics because they are produced using biological systems. Those can be a few thousand times bigger in terms of the size compared to small molecules. But in between then, we also have what we call the peptide drugs. These are peptides, you know. Peptides means they are made out of amino acids. You can have 7 amino acids, you can have 8 amino acids, but in the correct sequence of the amino acids. Or you can have 30 amino acids, you can have 40 amino acids, all string up. And can be a loop, or can be just a single strand of the peptides. So when I was with Hovid about 4 years ago, before I retired, we started a project where we synthesized this ourselves. I gathered a team and we developed the method of synthesizing it all by ourselves without any foreign consultant coming in. Okay. So, which means to say, if we have the will, we can do it. We managed to synthesize those peptides that we wanted. Okay. Now, it is a very small. Why I took up this project is because this is a very expensive molecule, expensive drug. 1 kg, 1 kilogram. You imagine you go to the Kedai Runcit and buy 1 kg of sugar. 1 kg, the one that we have synthesized, is between 5 to 7 million ringgit. 1 kg. But with our capacity, 1 year, I can manufacture only at the most 12 kg. And you think that's a lot of money, right? No, because the cost of production is also very high. Okay, so it's quite expensive as well to manufacture it. That's why it is so expensive. Now, that is not what we want. After synthesizing the peptide, we also want to make them into the final injectable form. The final injection. That's where the money is. To give you an example, octreotide is the peptide that we synthesize. 1 kg will be 5 to 7 million, right? But per injection is only 0.1 milligram. That means 1 kg, I can make 10 million injections. And per injection, at the time, the multinational, the original company was selling it at 60 ringgit per injection. Imagine 1 kg, 1 kg costs 5 to 6 million, right? But if I make them into the final dosage form, 10 million injections, and if I can sell all the 10 million injection at 60 ringgit per injection, it's already 600 million. Can you see the difference? So that's why I think to synthesize the raw materials is not so attractive. Okay, it's always better to do the finished product, and that may be the reason why local companies have not taken up the challenge to synthesize them. But why we took up the project to synthesize it? Because we want to get also incentives from the government, because it's something new, first time in Malaysia, and in this part of the world, nobody is doing this project of synthesizing the peptide drugs. Therefore, we get special incentives and everything, and getting certain grants. So we also have to design 2 different manufacturing plants. 1 to synthesize the peptides, 1 to formulate them and manufacture them into the final injection forms. Again, the 2 plants, we designed it by ourselves. We designed it, and then we went to the MPRA to get the approval. Of course, MPRA will have a lot of questions here and there, because of the GMP and everything. And the GMP is not like the normal GMP for a solid dosage form, because peptides are considered as potent drugs. And potent drugs, because of the potent drugs, okay, our plant design has to be very different, especially the finished product. The airflow system, we go for a classy room where we make the injections, and we have a containment isolator system, and because of that, the airflow must be different again. So we did all this by ourselves. The 2 plants finally approved by MPRA. So what I'm going to tell you is that earlier on, remember I told the students, with your pharmaceutical background or pharmaceutical technology background, you can pick all this up, because you have already the basic fundamental knowledge. Go and study all the guidelines that are available in the web. Go and attend some of these workshops or seminars where you have to pay. You can learn all this up. That's what I did. I formed my team. My team was 5 people only initially when we started to design all this. To find a method to synthesize them, the means of chemistry, and also the making of these products, designing of 2 plants. My team was only 5 people. And I see where there are workshops related to all this. I send them there. They go and learn, then come back, share with the team. And then we start to do all this. So it's something possible. So that's why I say, PharmTech students, don't limit yourself. You already well trained in this area. You already have all the basic fundamentals. Go and learn some more. Because with this basic, then you can go and learn further and further and further and better equip yourself. Then when you start working, you see the real life situation. And that's where you start to see the real life situation. And that's where you start to learn more and more online. You can go attend courses and everything, and you become an expert in that area. There's no limit. Don't limit yourself. Don't limit yourself after the PharmTech degree, just go and work and then just day in, day out, do the same thing. That's where you do day in, day out, you learn new things, and you learn and you go and learn further yourself, better yourself, improve your skills, improve your knowledge, and that's where you become an expert in the area eventually. Okay, so I think Dr. Lee, do I answer your question?
Yes, Prof. I will pass back to the MC. I think there's some questions posed by the students.
Okay.
So,
Yes.
MC?
Prof, ada orang tanya, untuk student yang nak buat internship dekat Hovid, kami boleh masuk and experience semua department or just selected department only?
Okay. I think for the information for the students, I already retired from Hovid, but we have taken in students for internship, and they can go into different departments because you can actually request. You can request with Hovid which department you're interested in and see whether they can place you there or not. But I would advise, if possible, Dr. Leah, get UniKL to sign an MOU with Hovid. With the MOU in place, then I think they'll be more obliging to take the students and to also give the students the opportunity to go where they want to go. Yeah.
Okay.
In different departments.
You,
so it'd be good. But I think R&D will be very good, because R&D you can learn a lot of things about the formulation in different things, and then also you see that sometimes there are problems in the manufacturing, in the production area, and then our R&D personnel will go in also to help to troubleshoot the issues with the registration, because some of the technical things they are not able to understand. They also come to us, everything. But now in the regulatory department, they have more pharmacists there. So you can also go to regulatory. Regulatory is a very important department, because that is where you will help to register your product. And to register a product, you have to have all the technical knowledge or technical information in that dossier, in that document. Okay. So also another good area. QA and QC is another good area to go in. Even logistic, supply chain, and all that. So I think it'd be good if you can go into the different areas.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Thank you, Prof. We have one last question here. Besides
Yep.
pharmaceutical plant design, what other pharmaceutical design that also have high demand in Malaysia?
I think if you have a pharmaceutical design background, okay, you know, there are a lot of herbal, traditional nutraceutical companies, plants in Malaysia. In fact, a lot of herbal companies. And also in the cosmeceutical way. Now, in the past, people used to make herbal products even in a shop lot and all that. But now you see the requirements are getting more and more stringent. Even if you have a small herbal production facility, you also need GMP. But your GMP may not be as stringent as that of a pharmaceutical. Okay? So you can also help in those areas in the design. Okay? And when you have a knowledge in the design, okay, in the design of a GMP plant, you already also have knowledge on the something like QA. Okay. For example, some plants they want to get GMP approval. Okay, the plant is already there. The plant sudah ada. Tapi dia tak boleh dapat akreditasi GMP. So that's where you can go and help them. Okay, you got to change this here, change this there. I redesign here, redesign there, and your personnel training, and you have your SOPs and all that. You can also work there and help them to get a GMP. And that's what one of my former students did. Yeah? They herbal plant because of the GMP requirements coming in and becoming the semakin susah and all that. And they get a help to redesign and rearrange certain things and training SOP, then to get the GMP certificate. You know, so if you have knowledge in the plant design, you can work in different areas as well, not necessarily just building a plant, but help people to get GMP. Faham?
Okay, Doctor.
Yeah.
Okay, Prof. Can we have our very last question?
Yep.
Hello, Prof. Can
Yep.
our degree be used for international companies? Let's say if I want to work in Europe, is my degree valid or are their qualifications different than our countries?
Okay. One of my former student, I mean, she's qualified, she got a PhD. I got her in as my R&D manager in Hovid. At the time, I got 4 of my former PhD students working as R&D managers in Hovid, under my division. One of them was headhunted by a multinational company because she has experience in operation. Okay, she has experience in formulation. Okay, and that's where her knowledge comes in very well for this multinational company selling excipients. So this multinational company, they sell excipients. Faham tak? Excipients. Macam they sell HPMC, they sell all those materials you need to do formulation. They sell all the different polymers, even the APIs and everything. So they employed her, they headhunted her, and they pay her 2.5 times the salary of what she was getting in Hovid. So this manager came to see me, and I tell her, go. This is a multinational company, and they pay her 2.5 times what she was getting. And her job was a technical sales. In other words, they already got salesmen going around selling their excipients, okay, to the different companies and to the different countries in this region. So she has traveled to China, okay, in different parts of China, Taiwan, Philippines, Vietnam, Burma, Australia, New Zealand, and of course Malaysia, Singapore, and Indonesia, because it's covered the whole of Asia Pacific. And every time she travels, she'll go with the sales team. And what she does is to give technical knowledge. Okay, I'm selling my HPMC. I have different grades. What my HPMC can do. Just excuse me for a while. Salim, I'm in a meeting. I'll call you back. I'm in a meeting. I'll call you back. So she just gives technical knowledge. She go to a pharmaceutical company and then talk to the R&D people. You know, they want to buy the raw materials and everything, and give them the technical knowledge. Give them a presentation, and then kalau dia ada masalah formulation problems, they can ask her, and then she gave them some solutions, etc. So she need not have to have a degree recognized by them. You understand what I mean? So it's important you have the knowledge and the experience, because it is not like a professional practice. So kalau as a pharmacist, misalnya in Malaysia, I must have a license kan to practice pharmacy. Jadi I got my license and I can open a pharmacy, I practice here. Tapi kalau I nak buka pharmacy, katakan di Singapore, okay? So in order to practice, to open the pharmacy or whatever practice pharmacy in Singapore, my degree must be recognized by Singapore before I can open a shop open a pharmacy in Singapore. The same thing in Australia. Kalau nak buka satu kedai pharmacy di Australia, my degree mesti diiktirafkan oleh Australia, baru dapat the license. But if you're not practicing the profession, where you need a license, then the PharmTech degree, why not? You can work in Europe, you can work in US, if you have the expertise and the experience. Like my student, although she's a pharmacist, tapi she doesn't need it to be recognized in China, doesn't need it to be recognized in the Philippines, because she's not practicing the profession. You understand what I mean?
Yes,
Hello?
Prof.
Yeah, because it's not a professional practice, so you don't need the recognition. Important, you have of course you have your degree lah. They will see your degree in this. They know you got this knowledge, right? And then, you have worked here before, you got this experience. Itu yang penting. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof.
Yeah.
And I think that is all for the Q&A session.
Before I end,
yeah.
I think I would encourage some of you with PharmTech background, pharmaceutical technology degree, you can go and do a high degree, do your master's and do a PhD, and preferably do a PhD. You are still so young, must go out, because once you get a PhD, okay, you are not limited. You can go international. Many of my PhD students, walaupun Malaysian, they are now all over the place. They've gone international. One of my PhD students, she did a Bachelor of Pharmacy degree in USM. Lepas itu, buat PhD dengan saya. Now she's an associate professor with Oxford University. And recently, another of my PhD student, dia baru habis about 4 years back. And she's now in Adelaide, in one of the universities there. Okay. And I have students from Ghana. After his PhD, he was a lecturer in Nottingham University in Semenya, Malaysia. And he became a professor. And now he's in UAE as a professor there. You go and do your PhD, and you can go international. Not necessarily limit yourself here or in Malaysia. Yeah. So I really hope some of the PharmTech students can go further, pursue your high degree, okay, and get your PhD, then you can go international. Okay, any more questions?
I think that is all for Q&A session, Prof.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you for the encouragement, and ribuan terima kasih saya ucapkan kepada speaker undangan pada hari ini, iaitu Profesor Yuen, kerana sudi meluangkan masa untuk menjawab soalan-soalan yang diajukan oleh peserta. Dengan berakhirnya sesi Q&A itu tadi, maka berakhirlah sesi perkongsian bersama Profesor Yuen. Tapi sebelum saya mengakhiri majlis, hadirin diminta untuk tunggu sebentar bagi sesi fotografi dan semua diminta untuk on camera.
Okay. I included? Okay.
Yes, Prof. Sure. Multimedia take over.
Okay, boleh buka kamera. Nak pakai background pun boleh.